Welcome to the Workplace Minute, powered by H3 HR Advisors and sponsored by Paychex, and also sponsored by WorkHuman. My name is Steve Boese. Rare bipartisan support backing the Faster Labor Contracts Act. Republican and Democratic senators exhibited a rare show of bipartisan cooperation this week with the introduction of the Faster Labor Contracts Act, an act designed to strengthen labor unions and collective bargaining for organizing workers. If passed, the act would require employers to collectively bargain with newly organized workers within 10 days of voting to form their union. The legislation was introduced by Senator Josh Hawley, Republican from Missouri, and Senator Cory Booker, Democrat from New Jersey, and is co-sponsored by Senators Gary Peters, Jeff Merkley, and Bernie Moreno, 2 Democrats and 1 Republican. Proponents of the act cite that while existing labor law requires workers and employers to bargain in good faith, the law currently doesn't impose a negotiation deadline. Over the last few years, it's taken longer and longer for new unions to secure their first contracts. On average, it takes well over a year to get an agreement. The new act would shorten the time to reach a contract agreement substantially. Additional provisions of the act include a mediation requirement. If no agreement is reached between a company and the union within 90 days, the dispute will be referred to mediation. The act also calls for good faith bargaining, meaning that employers are required to bargain in good faith and can face penalties for stalling or failing to engage in meaningful negotiations with workers. Finally, the act imposes additional transparency requirements. Employers will be required to provide regular updates on the status of negotiations to the union and employees. Unions, most notably the Teamsters Union, are major supporters, endorsing the bill and advocating for its passage. Unions have long had to contend with companies that attempt to delay, stonewall, and even outright refuse to negotiate with newly organized unions. Companies can prolong meetings, continually postpone negotiations, make unreasonable demands of the union, and raise legal challenges, all designed to drag out the process. This act would work to keep both parties engaged and focused on productive bargaining in reasonable timeframes. Of course, large corporations are generally opposed to the bill, as it aims to reduce their ability to delay these union contract negotiations. There have been historically few corporations open and willing to bargain in good faith with a newly formed union. In fact, many corporations undertake so-called union-busting techniques to fight against union organizing at all costs. As for the current status and the next steps for the act, the bill has been introduced and is currently under consideration in the Senate. The bill will need to pass through committee reviews and then be voted on by the full Senate. If it passes the Senate, it will move to the House of Representatives for consideration. Given the bipartisan support and backing from influential labor organizations like the Teamsters, the bill has a reasonable chance of passing. However, opposition from large corporations and other potential political hurdles could impact its progress. Given the polarized nature of most of the rhetoric and political discourse in the U.S. at the moment, it is notable and encouraging that this piece of pro-worker legislation has garnered strong support from both parties. Whether or not that will be enough to pass the Faster Labor Contracts Act will depend on if this small group of bipartisan lawmakers can get enough of their colleagues on board. We will keep an eye on the progress and report back with updates. That's it for the show today. We will continue to follow this and all the important topics and trends in the world of work here on the HR Happy Hour Media Network. This has been Steve Boese for the Workplace Minute, powered by H3 HR Advisors.